It is frightening to be lost. Isn't it? Frightening to be lost. Let me take you back to your childhood. All of us probably at one time or another were lost. Lost at the store, at the mall, at the fair. Those moments of sheer terror and panic when you truly knew you were all alone and mom and dad just weren't there. Perhaps as a youth, you lost something. A paper that was due that day. You erased a file into cyberspace somewhere. You lost a friend. Or maybe you lost the ability to perform a skill or a hobby. As an adult, wouldn't it be interesting to add up the total number of hours in our lifetime where we spend looking for our keys, our wallets, our purses, our credit cards? Where as adults we have lost relationships. And I'll even take you back to the lost child who is a mom or a dad, as in for those moments, lost a child. It's frightening. Because losing something or being lost ourselves brings on a myriad of emotions, realities, and fear. But Scripture this morning clearly tells us that while we may feel lost, our God is desperately seeking to find us wherever we find ourselves in life. You see, the Holy Word says that God is our shepherd. Scripture is filled with those references. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Isaiah 40 says, like a shepherd, he will tend his flock. In his arm he will gather the lambs and carry them in his bosom. He will gently lead the nursing ewes. Even Jesus, in the 10th chapter of the Gospel according to John, says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So follow me here. The image of God, the very image of God as a shepherd, is an interesting image. Because in most instances, shepherds are known as isolated, poor, uneducated, unkept members of society in biblical times. Oh, you have probably heard the old Spanish folktale of the doctor, the rancher, and the shepherd who met at the bar. Kind of know where I'm going here? Well, it's true, I guess. A doctor and a rancher and a shepherd having drinks in a bar get into an argument about who was the smartest. The doctor was educated but arrogant, the rancher was wealthy and powerful, and the shepherd was just a stinky, smelly shepherd. Acted like the shepherd, talked like the shepherd. But in the midst of that discussion and that disagreement, the bartender challenged the three men to a task, and whoever could complete the task would be coined the smartest man. It seemed that the bartender had a skunk under his porch that he could not get rid of. They went over to the bartender's house. The doctor said, I'll go in first and take that skunk away. The doctor entered and crawled on his belly underneath the porch. He lasted 30 seconds and was out of there. The rancher said, I'm next. Crawled on his belly, went underneath the patio, under the porch. 45 seconds later, he came out screaming like a baby. The shepherd then crawled under the porch. They waited. They waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, when suddenly the skunk couldn't take it anymore and ran away. You see, shepherds living in the dry and dusty land where water was scarce, who spent most of their time with sheep and not people, who were deemed as outcasts from much of society, doesn't really seem to be a positive image of God until you see the picture differently. You see, most sheep pens in biblical times were made of stone. They were big, square stone pens with a permanent opening. It was the shepherd who every night would lie across the opening to protect the sheep from harm. It was in the darkness the shepherd would ward off intruders, wolves, and any other dangers, so that the sheep would see the light of the morning. It was the shepherd who would literally lay down his life for the sheep. Now that makes sense. Scripture also tells us if God is the shepherd, we are certainly then the sheep. Psalm 95:7, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. The prophet Isaiah writes in chapter 53, verse 6, all of us are like sheep who have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. So if the image of God as shepherd is interesting, I will go on record this morning to say that referring to us as sheep is equally as curious. This afternoon, for the most NFL teams, they kick off their season. Some of you are checking your watches. The NFL kicks off with many games this afternoon. And most of the teams that will be playing, and most sports teams and mascots, are lions and tigers and bears and eagles and rams. They give you a sense of power and independence. But my Google search this week did not find one single professional sports team that was a sheep. Not one. Now, I might be wrong. Please send me an email if I'm wrong. There were Rams, but not one was the Tallahassee sheep. Not one. Sheep are dirty animals that often resist shearing to clean them. They are often restless when hungry or tormented by bugs, which can often blind them. They are weak and easy prey. They are prone to wander. The Associated Press, let me illustrate this point. The Associated Press several years ago ran a story that happened in a small town in Turkey where 1,500 sheep, one at a time, jumped from a cliff. One after another. 1,500 sheep. The shepherds sat there looking at these sheep falling to their death. It was so profound that what happened was the sheep that jumped later were spared because they fell on the pile. 1,500. So with all that, we are reminded that we all are sheep, and with that, prone to being lost and enduring and having that need to be found. Within us is a need that yearns for the assurance and the unconditional love of the great shepherd. Max Lucado, in a recent book, tells the true story of a chaplain in the French army who was encouraging his soldiers before battle. And he wanted to share with those soldiers 5 words that he used with his fingers. Here are the words he used to inspire the soldiers before battle. The Lord is my shepherd. He even encouraged them to write those 5 words in the palm of their hand. The battle was fought. The chaplain not really sure whether those 5 words, "The Lord is my shepherd," had any impact on any soldiers until after the bloody battle. He was roaming the battlefield, littered with dead bodies, and he came upon one soldier, mortally wounded, clutching his index finger. My shepherd. The my that gave him comfort and courage when I am sure he felt the most lost. You see, friends, that's the message of the cross. I never knew this, but in my study, when sheep fall down, they can't get back up. As a matter of fact, I guess it's a pathetic sight seeing a sheep on their back just wailing their legs in the air to no avail. Because only the shepherd can save them. When we fall, when we are lost, when we are aimlessly wandering, when we are hungry and tormented, often weak and fearful, only the Good Shepherd can find us, heal us, forgive us, and save us. I end with this. There's really only a few ways a sheep can get lost. They can get injured. They can maybe stray away from the rest. Only a handful of ways in which they can become lost. You and I, there's thousands of ways we can become lost. We can be angry, we can be resentful, we can just truly be lost in thousands of ways. But the good news is that there is one way to be found when we are lost. And my friends, they call that amazing grace. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound. Let's stand and sing together.